Hello, fandom. This is DJ Sully D, and welcome to my channel, The Fandom Realm. Today I'm excited to talk you through my top 20 most anticipated movies of 2020. This list is based on what we know about release dates so far, so if some things change, the top 20 will change as well. I'm not ranking all 20, but the first group of about 10 films will be alternates, and they're not necessarily in order of my favorites. Then at the end of the video, I'm going to rank my top 10 for 2020. So let's get started today with Venom 2. I wasn't all that familiar with Venom when it came out, and then I finally got to watch it and thought it was okay. A good first attempt, I think, to portray this Venom. I did feel like it was missing something. Spider-Man, maybe? This movie is set to release October the 2nd. I'm a huge Woody Harrelson fan, so it's a positive that he is here to play opposite of Tom Hardy. And adding to that excitement is the addition of Andy Serkis as director. I really want to see what direction he takes here. Of course, there are rumors out there that Tom Holland could make a cameo, which would definitely increase my excitement about this movie. Now we'll move on to Morbius. This is releasing July 31st. The main reason this gets into my 20 for 2020 is that I like vampire movies, I like Rockstar movies, and I like Jared Leto movies. So 3 in 1 seems to be a pretty good deal to me. Can't wait to see what they do with Jared Leto in costume, and I'm also looking forward to seeing what they come up with for this story. That could be a very interesting take on the Morbius character. So, Godzilla vs. Kong is next on the list and will be releasing November 20th. Can we please get one of these movies to be at least moderately successful? I really want something to come out of this series. I wish Millie Bobby Brown was not in it. I thought her presence overshadowed the monsters in the last movie. It seems like no one has figured out that the monsters are the stars in the Godzilla movies. It does worry me a little that they've moved the release date back, but hopefully that is a positive and they're just looking for a successful place to put it, and maybe they had some reshoots that they need to do to make the movie better. Come on people, Matthew Broderick's Godzilla is still my favorite. I know you can beat that. Next up is Coming to America 2, releasing December 18th. Eddie Murphy is back in the middle of a renaissance. His comeback has been very impressive the last year. I'm hoping it continues with this movie. I really like the first movie. I'm not a huge fan of comedy, so let's hope it's funny and not too cheesy. I'm really looking forward to this just because I like Eddie Murphy comedy, and the original Coming to America was so good. Onward is the next movie on our list, coming out March 6th. This is the only animated show on my list, but it is by Pixar, and we know their history with animated movies. The involvement of Chris Pratt and Tom Holland in this movie really do pique my interest, and it's really one of the reasons I'm giving it a shot this coming year. I like the premise with the magical world, but I'm not real sure that the plot won't be a little over the top. We shall see. Onward, good friends, to the next movie on our list, and that is Jungle Cruise, coming out July the 24th. This movie seems to be very interesting, and I like the fact that The Rock may be the biggest movie star we have right now. I think Emily Blunt is a good casting choice to play opposite of him. This movie's probably going to depend on the chemistry between the two. I think the story looks to be a little interesting, but it might end up being very cheesy. The trailers do seem to be likable though, so I do have some hope for this movie. Next is Tenet. This is a late addition to the list and will be coming out July 17th. This looks crazy and I'm not sure what it's all about, but there seems to be a lot of buzz about it, and Christopher Nolan doesn't usually make bad movies. Add to that Robert Pattinson, and I'm pretty intrigued. As we see more trailers and really get to know a little more what the movie is about, this could challenge to be in my top 10. Now we have Death on the Nile on October 9th. I want nothing more than to see a good Agatha Christie type murder mystery, and I hope this is a good one. Kenneth Branagh is one of my favorite classic directors, and I hope he does justice with this story. Honestly, I was a little disappointed with Murder on the Orient Express, so this is a chance to right the ship. To me, the cast is really going to have to pull off their parts really well. Although I really like Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer, I tend to think they can work a little more on their acting. If they're on, this is going to be a good movie. If they're sort of what I've seen in movies before, I might not like this too much. But here's hoping everything goes well and Death on the Nile is a good movie. Now for The Kingsman on September 18th. Honestly, this was in my top 10 until they changed the dates. That worries me a little as I only see bad reasons for moving the date back on this movie. It's going to present a different world from the first two installments, so I hope they have a good handle on what that world is going to look like. I hope it's good. I love the idea of The Gentleman's Spy, so this is a movie that ranks very high for me. Matthew Vaughn I trust. The cast I'm a little iffy on. I look at Aaron Taylor Johnson similarly to Armie Hammer in Death on the Nile. If he's good, the movie will be fun. If he's stiff as a board, like he can be, this could be the last of the franchise, and that would be sad. Now, in all honesty, this is the last alternate, and it could have very well gone into the top 10, and that is The New Mutants. The only problem is it's just been out there for so long, and potentially has so many issues that I don't really trust it. Although a trailer just did come out that really looks spectacular, so we'll see what happens. This definitely looks like it's an X-Men crossed with horror type movie, so we will see how that comes out. I like Josh Boone directing, but he is a little light on the directing credits, but it sounds like this is going to be his vision for the movie, and I always like that idea. Of course, there was a lot of speculation out there that initially he did get some studio interference. The cast really needs to step up. We all love Maisie Williams, but it feels like most of the rest of the cast is relatively unknown. And we all have to remember, this movie has been in production for at least 3 years. So these cast members are going to look a lot different today than they did then. Hopefully, their performance will be good enough, though. And if it is, the movie could be pretty good. I'm just afraid this movie has a huge chance of being one of the biggest bombs in 2020. Again, we'll see what happens. So now we've reached the top 10 movies that I'm looking forward to in 2020. And at number 10, releasing March 27th, is Mulan. The reason this movie makes it into the top 10 and New Mutants did not is because I think it's probably pretty much a guaranteed hit. Not familiar with most of the cast except for Donnie Yen and Jet Li. The only thing that would have made me want to see this movie more would have been if somehow Michelle Yeoh would have been cast. I'm looking forward to the live action adaptation and to see what Disney does with it, as there's going to be several changes. This movie definitely has a vast and epic feel to it, and it looks to have the potential to be the best of the live action remakes from Disney. And who knows, this could be the only Disney billion-dollar film in 2020. At number 9 is The Black Widow, releasing May 1st. Scarlett Johansson has always been strong in this role, and I'm looking forward to getting some of her backstory and seeing her where she is the star without the rest of the Avengers crew. You know what else I can't wait to get? Rachel Weisz. Hands down, my favorite actress. So the fact that she's in this movie is a definite plus. I really like spy movies too, so this looks like it should be a hit on my list. The question here is, how good is the villain going to be? Taskmaster I'm not totally familiar with, but the trailers so far look okay. Lots of potential, we'll just have to see where it goes. And at number 8, we have Top Gun Maverick, releasing June 26th. The question here is whether or not the IP is just too out of date. It isn't 1986 anymore, and there is no Kelly McGillis. But this is Top Gun, and I'm super excited to see what they do with it. I'm concerned it's just going to be a rehash of everything from the original, but the hope is that it can choose to be rather fresh. I do worry about the director, Joseph Kosinski, because while I liked Tron Legacy, it's not much more than an average movie to most moviegoers. The screenplay is by Christopher McQuarrie, who does good work, so I hope it's in good hands. A great Tom Cruise performance could shoot this movie to the top, and I definitely can't wait to hear that Top Gun theme song one more time. But can someone tell me how in the world this movie costs $152 million? Come on, studios, you can do better than that. On to number 7, and that is No Time to Die, coming out April 10th. I've always loved the James Bond franchise, and I love spy movies. I've just never really liked Daniel Craig that much as Bond, because I've always thought of Bond as the gentleman spy type. And I always thought that they were trying to copy the Bourne movies when they cast Daniel Craig in the role of James Bond. With this being said, it looks like this is actually his last performance as Bond. I want to see where they are headed with the character and the franchise, and I think it's going to make for a very good movie, so I'm putting it in my top 10. And now we're down to number 6, Fantasy Island. This is coming out February the 14th. This might be the most original new idea of all the movies in the top 20, or at least the concept behind the movie. This looks to be a flat-out horror adaptation of the classic Fantasy Island series that I love so much. The trailers look ultra creepy, and this should get a good response from horror fans. I'm a little questionable on the director and would have liked to have seen a little more high-profile cast, but this is going to be one of the first horror-type movies I'm going to be seeing in the theater in a very long time, so I hope it's at least watchable. And next up on our countdown is number 5, Ghostbusters Afterlife. This will be releasing July the 10th with Jason Reitman directing. This movie has gone from me not really being interested at all because of basically the goofy nature of Ghostbusters. And the last movie wasn't very good, although it sounds like they are basically booting that one from canon. So, I really wasn't interested in that type of movie. But I think what I'm seeing in the trailers, I may like it a little more. There should be some great fan service, along with some more grounded, realistic type story, especially with the return of some of the old cast. I really like the casting of Paul Rudd and Annie Potts to join Finn Wolfhard, who has really been on a roll here lately. He's one of the more talented younger actors. I'm hoping they can ground the story just enough so it's not as goofy as the original Ghostbusters. So we'll see what happens. And our next movie is Artemis Fowl, releasing May 29th. Don't worry if you've never heard of it. I would say there's a lot of people who are in that position. I think this is going to be one of those movies that people don't really know about what to think, but if it's made well, it could turn into a big hit. I'm only partially familiar with the books of the Artemis Fowl series, but I have several friends that are terribly excited for it. It looks like the movie is based on the first 2 books, and it seems obvious that Disney is looking for an original IP that can be a hit in the fantasy realm for those who miss Harry Potter. Disney did move Artemis from August 2019 to May 29, 2020. To move this from the relatively dead August to the peak movie season tells me that Disney may have high hopes for this movie, and thus hopefully it is going to be pretty good. Kenneth Branagh is directing, which is a definite positive. He definitely has a lot of good movies in his background. Dame Judi Dench is starring alongside Josh Gad, with a cast that doesn't really include any other real A-list celebrities that I can really see right off. Irish newcomer teenager Ferdias Shaw is playing the lead role of Artemis Fowl. He's only 15. I will say I do like the fact that they've cast a teenager around the age of the actual character. It always seems to me to make a much more authentic character. So with that, my number 4 is Artemis Fowl. And moving on to number 3 is The Eternals, coming to theaters November 6th. What I love about this is that we don't know what is going to happen. Marvel fans have been treated well with our main characters over the past 10 years. I am interested to see what happens with the introduction of the Eternals. I love ideas like this, eternal, hopefully wise beings that have been around Earth longer than pretty much anyone. This is the best Marvel ensemble cast outside of the Avengers movies that I've seen, with Angelina Jolie, a proven superstar, and one of my favorite less-known actresses, Selma Hayek. Add to that Game of Thrones stars Kit Harington and Richard Madden. Hopefully this is an all-star cast that can put everything together and pull off a big win. I'm really interested in Chloe Zhao taking on the Eternals, and I love the choice of her as the director, but can she pull off a big budget comic book spectacular? We'll have to wait and see. This does seem to be a must to get Kevin Feige's Phase 4 off the ground, and I really hope it's able to get us more entrenched into the Marvel Universe. And now we come to number 2, and that is Wonder Woman 1984, coming June 5th. I can't believe this isn't my most anticipated movie of the year. It was barely beaten out by the movie that's going to be number 1. I must have been pretty progressive growing up, because when I was a kid, I was a DC kid, and my heroes in order were Wonder Woman, then a really big gap to Superman and Batman. And of course, that was Batman and Robin. I always loved Linda Carter's portrayal of Wonder Woman and wish they would find a way to cameo her into the new movie. I'm excited to see what they do with the villains, especially Maxwell Lord and Cheetah. I'm a little concerned at the return of Steve Trevor. I'm not a big fan of bringing people back from the dead. And then the 80s time period might be a little strange, but I trust Patty Jenkins to do a great job with Wonder Woman. Hopefully she can hit $1 billion at the box office this time. And finally, we get to the top of our countdown. There is only one film that could possibly have beaten out Wonder Woman. My number 1 most anticipated movie of 2020 is Dune. David Lynch's Dune is what I consider a cult classic, a film that I think was a little bit ahead of its time. There were a lot of high concepts that weren't really successful in that movie, along with the fact that the special effects were not good, to say the least, especially after the standard that had been set in special effects in the Star Wars trilogy. The film was something of a mess, but it has actually grown on me to the point that I put it on and watch quite often. Because of this, I've been hoping for a Dune remake for years, so the fact that it is finally here is an awesome feeling. I like the fact that Denis Villeneuve takes the helm to direct. I think his style really will fit the movie extremely well. I've questioned some of the casting, especially Timothée Chalamet to start with, but I have become a huge fan of his acting, and I think he will do a fine job as Paul Atreides. I'm not a big fan of Zendaya, and I'm not sure I really like her in the role of Chani. Along with that, I'm not sure about David Bautista and Jason Momoa in their roles. They seem to be cast outside what I really want them doing. Other than that, the rest of the casting seems great. I love the casting of Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen. Hopefully the all-star cast will be great, with better special effects, and hopefully a story that is a little better paced and a little more grounded in the book. If all this happens, I think this could be a huge hit. Okay, fandom, that's my 20 movies in 2020. The movies I am most looking forward to coming up in the next year. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with some friends. And don't forget to join us Friday when we look at reviews that are so bad they're funny. Yes, that's funny bad reviews on Friday. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.